Hey everyone, and welcome to Screams After Midnight. I am Peter, that is Tim. We talk about horror movies on this show, and it is of course October. It is the Octoberthon. We are working through a bunch of extra episodes, bunch of extra movies to celebrate the month of Halloween. And this episode, we are going to talk about a film by Empire Pictures, which means you know you're getting a quality product. We are going to be discussing Cellar Dweller, a film that I have been wanting to do on this show for a while. So
yeah, I forget how we brought it up, because I don't think we had ever really talked about this before, but each of us has been wanting to see it. I'm assuming you haven't actually seen it before.
Oh no,
right?
I had.
Oh, you had? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, this is actually my first time watching it, and I knew absolutely nothing about it other than I went to a video store and I saw that title and I just knew I want to watch something with that title.
Was this a long time ago?
No, I mean, I don't mean a video rental store. I meant
Okay.
a store that sells movies and stuff.
Because I was gonna say, what is this something just been on your radar for the last 20 years? As a kid, you saw it there in the rental store, and it was like, oh, one day I shall see that movie. One day.
20 years, no. Definitely a couple of months though. I'll usually go.
Oh, totally the same. Couple of months.
Yeah. I'll usually go to the old Amoeba out here, just used records, CDs, movies and stuff, and sometimes I'll trade stuff back and have a little credit, just be perusing the horror section, and usually there's enough stuff I'm confident enough with that I don't do a ton of blind buys, but every now and again I'll see something that I'm like, I should just do this, and that's one that I've always been teetering on, such a good title. I like that cover.
What's funny is that I'm sure there's a lot of people who listen or watch a horror podcast, I'm sure, are the ones who would understand that impulse, but I feel like most normal people, when they say, oh, the one you consider blind buying is the one called Cellar Dweller, that's the one where you're like, oh, I want to take a risk on that. That's pretty funny to me. I don't know. But yeah, so
horror movies are a weird thing though, where it's sometimes the coolest title and the coolest cover can be the shittiest movie. I know, you shouldn't judge something by its cover, but sometimes something just looks so cool. But I've been burned so many times.
I mean, hell, the covers are there to sell what the thing is, and so I mean, sometimes
if it's a crappy movie, you should have a crappy cover. That's there should be a law.
But sometimes crap movies have good covers, and sometimes great movies have crap covers. It's just this. It's the circle of life. It happens.
Yeah.
So we'll start spoiler free as we always do. We'll give you a warning before we get into spoilers in the middle, and we'll dive into this. So this is a film about I remembered it being a college, not a dorm, but like a frat house or whatever, right?
Okay, alright, yeah.
But watching it again, it's no, it's actually an exclusive sort of post-grad art academy for a select few people. That's what it is.
I got a lot of questions as to what is actually the deal with this facility. But
facility, that's a good word use, Tim. Good word use.
I mean, really, it's just someone's house, but
it's a house. Yeah, it's a big house. We get a flashback at the start, 30 years before, and we see Jeffrey Combs making a cameo. Not his only cameo, because there's a Reanimator poster at one point in the background, as well as a poster for Dolls and a couple of other movies that I didn't recognize, but I have no doubt that every single one of them are Empire Pictures films.
Oh, yeah. This movie's not subtle.
Yeah, it's
at
not.
all.
But so the premise of the film is that he has got this demonic book which he's using for IDs for his comic book, which is Cellar Dweller, which is a clear, I actually had forgotten this element of it. It's a clear rip-off of Tales from the Crypt. It's the same font, it's the same this cover design,
the borders and stuff, very reminiscent of all of those kind of EC horror comics.
All of that. To the point where I'm like, did they get permission, or are they just it's not one of their names, we can get away with it, it's fine.
Yeah, I think it's adorable that you think Cellar Dweller got permission from anybody.
That's it's a fair point, Tim. But so he draws this beast after reading out the book, which seems like a bad idea to me. And of course, the beast and the woman that he's killing in his horror comic comes to life behind him. And in an effort to destroy the beast, he eventually realizes that if he burns his pages that he drew, that'll take care of him. Unfortunately, he does not notice the fact that he's spilled turpentine or whatever all over the floor, and ends up setting his entire body and room ablaze and dies. Cut to present day, at the time of the film coming out, which was 1988, and so we have this art academy that's now inside this house, and we have our new person, Whitney, who arrives on the scene. In a very weird scene where the cab driver is determined to talk to her about like the history of the house while the meter's running. So we get this comedy scene of her like trying to like, hey, the meter, hey, stop that right now, hit it, please. But she comes in, and lo and behold, we have this Mrs. Briggs character who runs the place, who doesn't want her there. She thinks she's a lowly comic book artist. You do the funnies, you're not an artist. And then she has our old rival Amanda happens to be there. And then we have, what are the other names on? I'm forgetting now. Philip.
Is Lisa, Philip.
I want to mention Philip, because Philip, she comes into the kitchen with Mrs. Briggs, and she meets Philip and Lisa. And Philip just, after she leaves, Philip just stares in that direction. He's like a mad serial killer, the way he's staring after her.
Oh, yeah.
But then he's the sweet love interest the whole movie. He's the goofy love interest.
Yeah, that like, I think the movie wants you to think that he's a love interest, but, like, they do not shy away from portraying him as a total creep. Like,
no.
He is so creepy in this. It's very disturbing.
No one ever reacts to him as a total. In fact, I want to talk about a scene later on where Lisa gets out the shower, right, and the towel's gone, and she thinks it's Philip playing a practical joke, and completely butt-ass naked, she comes out the shower, and she's kind of covering up her chest a little bit with her arms, but that's about it. She's like, Philip, I know it's you. Ready or not, here I come. What do you mean, here I come? You're the naked one. Why are you searching? And she's like, come on, Philip, this isn't funny anymore. Come out and give him a towel. And she's wandering around the house butt-ass naked looking for him, as if this isn't, like, weird or, like, that she, she's not even concerned with the fact that you'll see her naked at the end of this search, should she find him.
You know what it is, Pete? Yeah. Is that he's an artist. You can't you can't capture creativity. You can't judge that.
That's another thing. They all do different types of art. He does finger paintings, and honestly, they look like preschool, like child paintings. I don't understand why he's at this school.
I feel like that was kind of a joke, and I feel like you've seen this joke like in the, I don't know so much in the 80s, but it felt prevalent in the 90s where people would be making fun of that kind of abstract artist where they would have like just really crappy stuff, and then you'd have someone being like, oh, it's so modern and visceral and stuff, and then the joke would be it's like, oh, just a crappy bunch of paint splatter or something. But yeah, but that's like what I don't understand about this place is, like you said, all right, so if it is some type of, like, it feels like it's some type of school or something where people are going to, like, I don't know, like at first I didn't know if they have like, stuff that they're working on that's going to be like graded or submitted to something, but it just seems like a weird like
they didn't
mishmash.
Think about that, Tim.
Yeah,
they didn't. It's more of a retreat, because the one thing she says, Mrs. Briggs says to her when she arrives, is that, there's no phone, there's no television here, there's no distractions. I'm like, so it's basically just like a quiet place to work.
Yeah, it's a quiet place. If you make any sounds, giant bug monsters will come and eat you. Yeah,
speaking of sounds, I want to talk about Lisa.
Okay.
Who's the interpretive dancer. Now, we are subjected to one of her dances at one point, although it does have some stabby kind of moments, which were entertaining. But Whitney's first night there, she wakes up to the sound of just screaming at the top of some woman screaming at the top of her lungs. She goes outside the house to find Lisa just screaming like she's been murdered, just standing there, just screaming into the night, into the sky, just looking up and screaming. And then she turns round, and without a hint of sarcasm, she says, "Oh, I'm sorry, did I wake you?" Yes, you woke her! You were screaming at the top of your lungs, you dumb bitch!
You know what? Maybe it is like... this is almost a... what do you call it? Like a...
social experiment?
Well, like something that someone did for society, where these people cannot like be active participants in like the real world, so let's just like shuttle them off to this place where they won't harm anyone.
Yeah, maybe. I just like when she turned around and said, "I'm sorry, did I wake you?" I'm like, of course you, like, this is like someone like operating a jackhammer and then saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, did I wake you at 1 a.m. Did I?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, the rest have all gotten used to me, so they don't wake up." I'm like, they're used to this. They're used to you just screaming regular intervals for like an hour. Like what? What crazy place is this? So the reason why I'm focusing on that, I'm focusing on the scene where she's walking around naked looking for Philip. Not being concerned with the fact that she's naked. There's a lot of little character decisions and actions in this movie that are really weird and don't make a lot of sense. And those were the ones that stuck out to me as just being like, what is happening here? What's going on?
It's weird, but again, like I feel like the movie just wants you to think like these are very eccentric artists, like they're not normal people, like can kind of hide and get away with anything through that lens.
I don't want to like make it sound like I'm being critical here, because I kind of enjoyed all this wackiness. Like,
oh yeah, sure.
I'm pointing out how stupid it is, but I wasn't annoyed when it was happening. I was kind of into the absurdity of it. So just to sort of move the plot forward, then. Basically, Whitney realizes the basement is where her favorite artist who did the horror comic, played by Jeffrey Combs, lived and did his work.
Colin Childress.
They said it like 15 goddamn times, so yeah, I'm surprised I didn't remember it. But she goes down there and she says, "Oh, I'll take that place and I'll work down there." And she dusts it up a little bit and gets her big drawing table down there. And of course, she ends up reading from the same demonic book, meaning that she draws the monster, and then it starts showing up and killing. Now, there's some fun elements here. There's the idea that the way she draws the thing killing someone, it then happens, and then it gets sort of flipped on its head as the movie goes. So there's definitely like a really fun premise to this. So I'll ask the question, Tim.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy Cellar Dweller?
Holy shit. It's it's kind of weird. I think I'm a little bit of a mixed mind. Like on the one hand, I kind of loved it, but on the other hand, there's definitely like a lot of flaws. Like there's a lot of stuff that could be improved, but I mean, obviously, we're both big comic fans and horror fans, so the idea, just the general plot of, oh, the main characters are comic book artists and they're using like this ancient demonic book to like obviously not consciously but like subconsciously summon a demon through their comic book drawings. Like that is, holy shit, that's a premise that I can definitely get behind. And then like it's fun enough, but I mean, there's definitely a lot of stuff it was lacking. Like I think I'm assuming most of my problems are probably just stuff that they didn't have the budget for, but I feel like this is just like a small house with like a couple of characters. Like I think where it really needed to be was like maybe kind of like an actual like big art institute or studio with maybe more characters, so you could have like a bigger body count, some more varied kills, even though there's one like really awesome kill in this. But for the most part, the creature is kind of just doing the same move over and over again.
Yeah, he's pretty straightforward. I think the big thing for me is that the movie's only like 78 minutes long, and I actually think it could do with another 10-15 minutes just to, because one of my biggest complaints I think with the movie is that when the characters get a hint that something's happening later on, they very quickly just jump to the actual thing that's happening. Before they even witness anything, they just kind of figure it out and say, "Oh, this must be what's happening," and then they just that's it.
Yeah.
There
no,
we
definitely.
Go. So that's weird.
I feel like we don't often say this in the show, but this is definitely something I actually was like, it could have been a little longer. Like, it could have been like a solid 90 minutes or something. Give it a little room to grow. Maybe add another character or something.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. Is I feel like it could use a bit more time, and just make I think it's the third act, because I think all the build up to it I really like, and then the third act just goes through everything so quickly, and then I don't even want to complain about stupid decisions because I feel like those are part of the fun, but.
Oh yeah, this is total 80s cheese fun. Like, the characters are, exaggerated and over the top, and there's even like, you get like a cheesy little like cleaning up montage kind of scene, like which again, it was pretty short. Like, you probably could have gone a little longer, had some more fun with that. I like, the kind of like rivalry between Whitney and Lisa, or wait, no, Amanda, sorry. Yeah. But like, their rivalry was like fun and stuff, and you probably could have explored that more. But it's a lot of fun, and it's I just wish there was a little bit more to it.
Yeah, no, That's basically how I feel. But there are some fun kills. I do like how during the kills and stuff, it'll cut back to the comic that's like was being drawn, and you'll see it kind of. It actually almost cheaps out of some gore at some parts, but you just see it happen in the comic book instead. Like you'll see like an arm be snapped off in the comic, and then it'll cut back to the monster, and it'll be like eating the arm. And it's like, okay, all right. But at the same time, I don't even begrudge it that though, because it's actually kind of fun. Like it's fun cutting to the
definitely.
comic book and showing the art do it. It's So I can't really complain too much about it.
I was like going crazy though. Like I was like, man, the cockiness of this artist to just automatically start off with pen. Like you're not gonna do like some rough pencils first. Like no, she just like immediately is drawing in pen.
I feel like that's just because they want it to happen as she's drawing, and they can't have her do 2 drafts of it. It doesn't work dramatically.
That's another thing is like how fast is this artist? Because it makes it look it's happening at the same time, but it's like, you know, that would mean that you'd have to literally be doing like a panel like in a few seconds. The amount of time. There's
some creative license being taken here with how long it takes to draw and how long it, because even if she's drawn that quick, I still have a hard time believing that the murder scene, if you will, is taking place at the exact same pace as what she's drawing the whole page at.
Exactly.
The art's pretty good though. I don't know who they got to do the art specifically, but it looks pretty good.
Yeah, that's something I always I looked at it in the credits. I forget the name, but it definitely wasn't like a name I recognized. Like it's not like, oh hey, so Bernie Wrightson did it. Whoa, that's surprising. Like it wasn't anything like that. But
they couldn't afford any actual comic book superstars. Come on now.
That is something I always think about, like in movies, that whenever you see someone like painting or drawing, it's always like, man, they didn't do that. Like, I wonder if the artist just feels like, when they're watching it, like, man, like, I'm not getting any credit for this.
To be fair, they usually do.
In the credits, but people watching the movie aren't gonna usually watch or look out for that.
But people who don't, people who just assume that the actor did it, like, who cares what they think?
Oh yeah.
Let's be honest here. Come on. Let's be blunt. Let's be honest. That's where we are with this. So we'll give the spoiler warning, just because so we don't have to dance around things a bit. So Whitney, she gets pissed off at Amanda. Oh
wait, no, I was start at the very beginning. You know what I love about this movie is it starts right away. Boom. The screen pops up and we see 30 years ago. All right, then you have all this stuff with Jeffrey Combs, and then when that's over, you get a really long credit sequence, which I wondered if that was because that the movie was so short, if they really padded out the credits. But then as soon as it's done, you get another screen and it says 30 years later. It's like I don't think I've ever seen that in a movie. Like you could have just said like present day or something. Like that was very weird.
Yeah, I mean, if you always say 30 years later, you don't need the first one.
Yeah.
The first one's fine. Now, I noticed that as well. The opening titles feel really long, and they have these weird pauses between each name, and it's almost kind of like your movie's only like 78 minutes. So which means if you cut all this out, then it's like, what, 73 minutes, maybe 72? Like,
and did you notice what it said on the credits, too?
At the end?
Yeah.
A good cast is worth repeating.
Yeah. So like they knew that they had like this long ass like intro at the beginning. I felt like that they had to say that.
But Joe, what's funny about it though is that that's not irregular. Like you have the opening titles and then you list the cast and the credits at the end anyway.
Yeah.
But they make a point of saying a good cast is worth mentioning twice, which is again just weird. But so Whitney and Amanda are rivals, right? And Amanda really pisses her off by trying to frame her and say she's plagiarized, and she like records some footage of her, and she's in cahoots with Mrs. Briggs.
So wait, what's Amanda's art? Just like filming people? I guess documentarian.
She's been through a few different art forms, but it sounds like now she's like a videographer.
Okay.
And she gets some footage of her of Whitney drawing, and then intercuts. So she basically does an edit trick to make it look like she's just plagiarizing someone. But she records her own hand doing that, and I'm like, if this is like being looked at as evidence, everyone's going to say, is this like credible evidence? Could this have been manipulated? Yes, it can be edited. Right, that's what it is. That's all this is editing. It is like the least convincing evidence ever in a movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, Winnie doesn't even know she's doing this shit. She didn't find this out till later. But she's so pissed off at Amanda, she draws her being killed in her comic, and it's fairly innocent because she's just a drawing, whatever.
Yeah.
But she draws her being killed, and as she does that, it plays out, and the monster appears in the room with Amanda, and kills her and eats her limbs and all sorts. And it's really big, fun, goofy, bodysuit makeup, monster effects. It's kind of fun. It's full of charm. I especially like when he disappears. There's this sort of swirling blue light in front of him. Old school.
There's some crazy effects. I think it's this one. If not Amanda, then Lisa. But one of them, they're trying to get away, and they're trying to leave. They go to grab the doorknob, and then the doorknob just disappears. And there's like this cartoon ass sound effect that really made me laugh. It's like a barrel. That was really funny.
Yeah, and so then one of the characters we're not really spoken about yet is this older guy, this middle-aged man who used to be a PI but now is a writer, and sometimes he likes to act out scenes. In fact, no, I want to rewind even further because I had a thought. So he does this thing earlier on whilst they're looking at some paintings. He jumps out and he's kind of like he's a robber, and he grabs Lisa and is like, "Hey, give me the paintings," or the girl gets it. And Philip's like, "Oh, I'm proud that you think they're worth enough to do this, but that's basically it, right? Not a big deal." And I was actually thinking during this scene that this was another kind of fantasy sequence, because before this, Whitney's shown to have these weird flights of fancy where she kind of imagines a scene, because when she's first told about the basement and that's the door to the basement, it's off limits, she imagines going down there. And she imagines it's like a weird museum, and she sees all these things, and then she gets someone tries to kill her, right? There's a whole sequence, and obviously during that scene, the first time you're watching it, you're thinking, "Oh, this is a nightmare. She's going to wake up. We're going to cut to her waking up." Instead, it cuts back to her just standing there in the hallway, and she smirks like this is her daydreaming. She likes to dream horror scenarios. I'm like, okay, fun, whatever. That's a little bit different than usual. So during this scene, when he's got them at gunpoint, and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to kill her if you don't give me the paintings," I'm like, oh, this is another one of her things, where she's seeing this. And then it turns out at the end of the scene that he's like, "Oh, thanks guys," and he walks off, and she's like, what's happening? It's like, "Oh, that's just him. That's what's his name?"
Him, Norman? I don't remember. Norman, that sounds right.
Norman, Colin, one of those two. It's like, "Oh, that's just him. He likes to act out his scenes sometimes because it helps him with his writer block." And it's like, we just play along. And it's, oh, okay, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
So here's
here's
why I'm bringing these two up though. I'm bringing these two examples up. Her having her weird horror vision and him acting out his scene. They set up both of these things, and you would think that one of them's going to pay off later. They're going to something's going to turn out to either be a reenactment or something's going to turn out to be one of her horror visions, and then it'll be like a fake out, right? That's why you set these two things up.
Yeah.
Nothing ever happens with either of them. They're never mentioned again.
And then, I mean, also to add to that point too, during that scene, we see that Whitney is actually a very good, almost like a detective herself. She, makes all these statements. She's like, "Oh no, he's not going to be able to do anything. That's this certain type of gun which only can hold this many bullets, and he only has one loaded, and he already fired blah blah blah." And he's like, "Oh, you're very observant," and it's like, okay, so we see that she has this skill that. I don't know if it's going to come into play later on, and obviously it doesn't.
It never does. I mean, unless you want to try and tell me that's how she figures out there's a demon coming from her drawings and killing people. But there ain't. But he gets suspicious because he heard them arguing. So oh, maybe she had something to do with her disappearing. Because they don't even know she's dead yet. She's just not shown up this morning.
Yeah, I think that's another thing. It might be more interesting if you actually know that people are being killed. So then it's kind of like a everyone's, on alert, and we got to figure out what's going on. People can start getting paranoid, maybe accuse people or something. Might be a little more interesting than, it's just kind of oh, I guess these people are gone.
Yeah. And then, so he's suspicious, he's looking into it, and he goes snooping around in Amanda's room and finds the evidence and thinks that he's solved the case. And the monster shows up and kills him. And of course, my first thought is, but no one's drawing this. Why is he doing this? However, as he's doing it, the page draws itself that appears. And I'm like, okay, so this is the thing. Now that he's out the bottle, as it were. we have him just like appearing and the pages appear. And later on, of course, that's what Whitney finds, and is like, I didn't draw this. I didn't draw this either.
Yeah.
This is arguably the best death in the movie, though, because he gets his head just hit off clean. The beast just swipes his hand at his head, and his head just comes flying off. It's gold.
This really surprised me, because at this point, I'm having a lot of fun with the movie, but I'm kind of sitting in my expectations. Like, it's like, all right, every time we see this monster, it's kind of from the same angle. He kind of just does the same move, so I figured that's what we're gonna get. And then out of nowhere, we get this kind of glorious just decapitation. He swipes the head, like, blood splurting out. The head is bouncing against the door. Like, obviously, it still looks cheesy, but it's a lot of fun, and like it really like perked me up. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, it was a really fun scene. And then of course we get the whole shower scene with Lisa going around naked. It ends in her being killed as well. That's when both Philip and Whitney realize what's happening, and they try and stop it, and it doesn't work. And then Philip just gets pulled into the comic.
Yeah,
randomly. This is the thing, like, so many rules just like start happening randomly towards the end of the movie. But she basically gets this idea where not only can she trap it by like drawing like chains around it, she can then draw all the people who have died, and they all come back, and we see them all come back. And that's like, as okay, it's obviously, as a horror movie, it's like, okay, everyone got to come back to life. It's not if it maybe takes the bite out of things a little bit, but at the same time, it's like, okay, this makes sense given the rules. And then she makes the mother of all stupid decisions. So we established at the start of the movie, if you burn the pages with the beast on it, with the Cellar Dweller on it, he will burn and disappear for good, until he's read and drawn again. She puts all of her pages into the wastebasket with the fire, and I immediately said, but wait a minute, that's where you drew all the other people who came back. Why are you burning those pages? And sure enough, within about 10 seconds, Philip and everyone else who came back to life all starts burning.
I know like a lot of theories about this scene, because I was assuming that...
I'm looking forward to this, Tim. Go on.
Well, no, it is very, I think, confusing the way it's presented, because I assumed that, like, obviously we're cutting back and forth, and, I assumed that when she was drawing people that, she was setting them to the side or something. I didn't assume that the paper she was throwing in the wastebasket was those ones. I mean, if that is the case, then yeah, what the hell, she is beyond stupid. But
well, she does, because at one point it cuts down while they're burning, and you see the faces inside the basket.
Well, no, but what I was thinking is that the Cellar Dweller, because we've established that these comic book pages can kind of draw themselves, and that there's like a magic quality. So my thought was that once he starts burning, he like changes the papers to those pictures of the people.
Okay, all right, I can see what you're saying.
And not that I'm trying to defend the movie. I don't know if that's what they were going for, or it's very like loosey goosey, like with what the Cellar Dweller can do and what's going on with these pages. So I don't know if that was part of it, or
my guess would be no. I don't think so. Yeah. But
I mean, if it is literally like you're saying, like she just took all the pages with the ones she drawn, I don't even know how they could like even entertain that.
Don't get me wrong, I do like the dark twist of she managed to bring everyone back to life only for them all to die again. That's actually quite funny to me. That's quite a dark, funny ending to me. Because this is basically the end of the movie. Like she screams afterwards, and that's kind of it.
There's another theory I have that's even a little more outlandish.
Oh, go on.
I don't know if like all these people were actually created by the Cellar Dweller, if they were even like real people, because like all right, so like hear me out on this. All right, so
so you think the twist is that they were all artificial because they all came from the pages, so at the end when she's burning everyone, they all go because they're all part of the comic and not real. Okay.
Or like even before that though, because like,
but wait a minute,
right, so you have,
is this including Whitney? Because Whitney and Amanda have got a past.
Right. So yeah, I don't know how Amanda would fit into that, but like here's where I was kind of thinking, so you have the Cellar Dweller, so you set up in the beginning that burning the pages kills him, but obviously that's not true, and he still survives at the end when the pages are burned. And he says he lives on in like imagination or whatever. So if he doesn't actually die in the beginning, and he's like kind of still, trapped in this school, but he needs someone to come and like, draw to let him out or something. But he, like kind of uses his power to create like other people that kind of like, like rejuvenate this building or whatever. And, it becomes kind of like enticing to bring this comic book artist to there.
I agree this is far-fetched, but I don't fault the I don't fault the line of thinking.
Yeah. I don't like, and I'm not saying that I think that's absolutely what happened. It's just that the ending is so kind of like, not really gonna make everything clear, that I think there is room to kind of think about stuff like that.
Yeah, obviously the final moment is that, she's screaming, and then he's like, oh, I live on as long as there's imagination, and then she seemingly, is killed as well, and it's like, because she couldn't let her horror imagination, like, she can turn that off. Like, she's always thinking about horror possibilities, and therefore, because of that, he could exist. Kind of almost Freddy Krueger-esque in a way. As long as that I'm thought of, I'll come back.
See, what they really should have done is, like, they should have had him say something like that, like, oh, as long as people, are thinking about me, and, and I'm in their imagination, like, I'll live on. And then it should have just cut to, like, someone in like a studio executive or something, or maybe even like Amanda, like she survives and now she's like pitching like a Cellar Dweller movie to like a studio, and they're like, oh hey, like, watch it spread. That would have been cool.
Yeah, it could be something. You thought about this ending way more than I did. All I could think was how stupid she was for putting all the pages in on the wastebasket. But
yeah, well, I think it is like I think the big thing for me with this movie is like half of it is this hidden gem that I've never seen before, that I'm like, holy crap, I kind of love this. And then half of it is, but man, a lot of it is a wasted opportunity. Like it just feels like there could have been so much more, especially when you're dealing with something like comic books and imagination. Like there's just really like inventive creative kills and stuff you can do, and they even like set stuff up like, all right, if you're gonna have Philip go into the comic book, like you could have done stuff then like where maybe Whitney is being chased by a Cellar Dweller and she doesn't know what to do, and then maybe like she can start looking at the comic book and like maybe like he's talking to her through that or something, and then she's looking at the pages and he's telling her what to do. Like you could, like there's fun stuff like that I was like, oh man. And again, it's a short, pretty low budget horror movie, so there's probably wasn't a lot that they could do, but I just couldn't help thinking in my mind, like, oh man, it would have been cool if they did this and this and that.
There's a lot of fun stuff in there. I think it gets by on its charm, its wacky characters, and some of the absurd things that happen. And then the general comic book premise is pretty fun, even if it does feel like it kind of, doesn't do a whole lot with it in the final act. Is kind of the biggest problem.
Oh, yeah,
it just feels rushed at the end.
Oh yeah, and I'm sorry. Actually, I completely forgot about one of the big reasons why I was thinking like that all the people were created by the Cellar Dweller is because we have that scene where the whatever house mom or whatever Mrs. Briggs, was it?
Yeah, Mrs. Briggs.
Where she transforms into the Cellar Dweller. And again, I don't know if that meant she was always a Cellar Dweller or if it was just like that scene he was taking on her shape. Or
I took that scene as he rips through her.
Okay.
he appears from inside her, because I kind of felt like that was her death or something like that, because she comes back at the end when she's drawn, so I was like, oh, she did die then, so it wasn't like it was her the whole time.
Yeah.
But
okay, I mean, yeah,
but again, that was another thing where I said to myself, oh wait, this is another new thing that can happen. Like, okay, first someone draws him, he kills, oh then he can just do something and then the page will be drawn, and it's like, okay, now we've got all these other rules. He keeps making up new things as the movie goes on, which makes it feel very flimsy in terms of any kind of logic. You're just gonna have to go with the insanity and just kind of see what they do.
Yeah.
But hey, I suppose should we rate it, Timmy? Or...
Well, I think a few more things I just want to say.
Oh God, Tim's got a lot to say.
I love that, like, Jeffrey Combs, it feels like they still like kind of wanted him to be Reanimator. Like he was basically wearing like a lab coat and a black tie. Like he still looked like Herbert West. I was like, is that what like a comic book artists would look like. I just thought that was funny.
I'm pretty sure a comic book artist can just look like just about anything.
I mean, I don't know. It just seems weird though. If you're like, if he was actually going to, Marvel or DC office to work, then yeah, I can see him like dressing up and stuff. But I'm like, I don't know. You're really just gonna dress up like when you're just in like a weird basement.
In the 50s,
also,
maybe in the 50s they took themselves really seriously.
And it kind of feels like too. I'm a little surprised. Like if this was a little earlier, I can still see that like stigma against being like a comic book artist. But like I don't know, this was like the 80s. Was having like a little bit of a boom, like especially with independent stuff like Ninja Turtles. Like it was like a big money maker. That I'm surprised that there's still such a stigma. But
I feel the stigma in the movie towards her being a comic book artist is more to just like to make the plot work than it is to do with that's what people were actually thinking at the time.
Oh sure, yeah, true.
So
and I don't know, and I think I don't know, I just wasn't really a huge fan of like Whitney's character, like, and I feel like you don't really get to know her that well. Like it seems like there's interesting stuff, like we know she loves like Cellar Dweller, but she just seems like one of those like there isn't really much like interesting about her. Like I don't know, I just feel like you don't really get to know her that well.
That's true. I mean, it's true for most of the characters. Really, there's not. They're pretty much a blank slate of 80s horror movie cast of characters.
Yeah, I think like at least like other people, like they're a little bit more like kind of like tropes and stuff, so you can have some fun with them. Like I think if she's like a big fan of Cellar Dweller, then like
she's the straight man, right? Like everyone else around her is kind of the weird wacky ones.
But like I don't know, she just always looks like just like an 80s businesswoman or something. Like at least be like, oh, she loves this book, like make her like a horror hound and stuff, and like I don't know, like have her like look cool or something. Like I don't know, she just always looks like kind of like you said, like very straight and stuff. Like
so your complaint's the same again from the other artist, is that she doesn't look like a comic book artist. She looks like a normal person wearing normal clothes.
Yeah, like just like, well, not even like just like normal stuff. Like like she looks like businessy. Like I don't know.
Which, to be fair, you said the other dude was wearing a shirt and tie. So I mean that is that's the equivalent of businessy, right?
Yeah. So like I don't know, make them look cool. Like I don't know, it irked me. It irked me, to be honest. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
I can't say I had much of an issue with the dress code of the characters. That was not what was on my mind as I was enjoying the film.
I just feel like you could have had more fun with it.
Okay, no, I concur. I think everything's just a little bit too rushed in the last like the last like 15 minutes should be the last like 30 to 40 minutes, and because of that it feels rushed. But hey, it's otherwise pretty fun. I think it's well worth checking out and tracking down if you like cheesy 80s horror movies.
Oh yeah, like I hope I don't sound too negative, because again, like I did legitimately love it. I just don't think it's necessarily like the best movie, but especially if you like horror and comic books, I think it's a lot of fun just like on the premise alone and getting to see the drawings and stuff.
So we shall rate it now. If Tim is satisfied.
I'm never satisfied. But yeah, see, this is a hard one because I feel like there's the movie I watch, which is flawed, but then like the movie I kind of like had going in my head where I'm fixing the stuff as I'm watching it. Like I feel like that gets like a pretty high score, but because of the flaws and stuff, I'm gonna go like a little low, but still like not a bad score. But I think I'm gonna give it like a 6.5. Like it's just there's just like a lot of wasted opportunities, but if you could fix some of the problems and make it like I'm envisioning it in my head, like this would be like an easy like 8.5 or something. But
I mean, I'm just gonna give it a straight 6. I mean, I'm not deliberating over it as much. I think it's not necessarily a good movie, but it is really fun and cheesy, super 80s. Interesting enough premise that it keeps it kind of fun and different from other movies. Like it's there's kind of slashery elements, but it's not really a slasher movie. It's got the fun monster effects. It's got the comic art, all this stuff.
I mean, this is something that, especially nowadays, where comics are such a big thing. Like I think I'd be okay with a remake. Like it's still a super fun part. Or even if you don't want to do a remake, you could do a sequel. I'd be down with, Cellar Dweller 2. It can take place another 30 years later.
It is actually is 30 years later. Well, seriously, this year's 30 years later.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Oh, and we didn't even mention the writer of it.
We didn't? Who wrote the movie, Timmy?
Well, if you look at IMDb, I believe it's credited as Kit Dubois, but that was a fake name. It was actually
Don
Mancini.
Who did all the Child's Play movies and stuff. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I didn't notice that. Fair enough. I've learned something.
I don't know why he wouldn't want his name plastered all over this movie, but
yeah, it makes you wonder why did he use a pseudonym? What about it did he want his name removed from?
Yeah.
Interesting. Hey ho, hey ho, speculate away. But that does bring it end to this discussion of Cellar Dweller. You can let us know what you thought of the movie in the comments. Of course, we do have to do a little bit of plugging here at the end. We have to tell you about patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, where you can go and support the show and the channel and everything we do here. If you feel especially supportive because we've been pumping out episodes all month, you can go and show some love over there. But of course, you can also show love by watching the ads on YouTube, liking, subscribing, all that usual stuff, and whatnot. And there'll be the monthly vote, of course, is up on Patreon. There was 3 votes for October, and we'll be doing those 3 movies later in the month, so you can look forward to that. Also, it's funny that Jeffrey Combs showed up in this one. We've been doing Reanimator movies this month as well, but there you go. Sometimes things just line up.
Unplanned, but it's a very cozy month.
Yeah, it's very cozy. A lot of combing going on. So so that is Cellar Dweller. This has been Screams After Midnight. So thank you once again. Get me on Twitter at Wibble89. Get Tim on Twitter at Tim Vargulish. And I always forget to do this, but if I can just do this and then I go transition and then look at that. Now the audio people got no benefit out of that, but for the video people, the Patreon and the Streams Midnight Twitter, the at Streams Midnight, which is the Streams After Midnight Twitter, are on the screen, so check out those as well. So thank you very much once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching scary movies. Happy October, and we'll see you next time.